Well, they say an entrepreneur is someone who is willing to jump off a cliff without a parachute, who thinks they'll make it across. Um, it hasn't always been pretty, but I've never hesitated to make the jump.
Leadership is everywhere. In our work, in our family, in our community. We see leaders by their actions. We know their legacy. This podcast is about leaders, people just like you, doing amazing things every day. I hope these stories inspire you, they motivate you, and they fuel your leadership legacy. My name is Vicki Guy. Welcome to Ignite. Hi, and welcome to Ignite, the podcast for leadership. You know, taking risk is a concept that is sometimes scary, but research shows that it separates good leaders from great leaders. Our guest today is no stranger to risk. Scott Costello has put himself in the middle of several situations that have given him the ability to learn, adapt, and grow, all through taking risk. After this short break, we're going to be back with Scott Costello, the owner of Advantage Publishing.
My name is Dana Morrison. I'm the IT director at Grace Christian School in Raleigh, North Carolina. IT directors often hoard so much knowledge that it's hard for their team members to learn. IT Pro TV has given us the ability to level up our technicians to a point where they can decide this is important for me to learn. I would recommend IT Pro TV to any IT team. It's just a great tool for any IT professional.
Hi, and welcome back to Ignite. Today we are joined with Scott Costello. Scott is the owner of Advantage Publishing. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, Vicki. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for being with us today. As you know, the Ignite podcast is really about sharing stories about people that are just doing really cool things every day that demonstrate their leadership. And you know, I've known you for a long time, and I know that over the years, you've done a lot of really cool things. So I'm so happy that you're willing to share some of those stories with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So being the owner of Advantage Publishing, I know you've had a journey that has, you know, it wasn't like an overnight success, right? It's a journey for our careers. Tell us a little bit about how you started in the publishing arena.
So I was originally a financial advisor with a multinational company that decided to change their philosophy on who they wanted as clients. And as their philosophy changed, I realized we no longer meshed. And at the same time, my daughter was born. So as I was transitioning, I didn't want to be one of those dads that didn't know how to parent, and I decided to take a sabbatical, and I was a stay-at-home father for 6 months and changed all the diapers and understood the different cries and realized that while I was having much more intelligent conversation with my daughter than I was with people my own age, I needed more adult interaction. And I started the process of transferring my licenses to another firm and realized that it was a long process. And a friend suggested a publishing company as a place to hang my shingle, so to speak, while I was waiting. And I researched them and interviewed with them and thought this will be a nice little short-term gig. And I was on the sales floor for a couple of months and then went into management and started to really realized that the company I was working for was very similar to the new version of the brokerage firm. Their philosophy, their community involvement was very different than what I wanted. And it was found that I loved what I was doing. It was fun. It was exciting. Every day was different. But I really wanted to make it or break it based on my own work and give it a shot. Could I succeed as an entrepreneur? And researched our community, and I was the manager of a number of building magazines, home building, commercial, general contractors, and there was nothing in our market in North Central Florida. So I thought the timing was right, and I went out on my own and decided to start a publishing company based on the building industry in North Central Florida. So my market was from Ocala up to Lake City, and got to build it how I wanted to, and focused on what I had learned along the way at my two previous stops, but done it the way that I thought would be best suited for my readers and advertisers, the community. And we ended up growing to being in 34 markets across the country, um, which was a lot of fun. But I was spending a lot more time coaching and managing and teaching others how to do it, and less time with my clients and partners here in the community, which kind of was counterproductive to who I wanted to be. So ultimately, moved out of the partnership in the company I was in, owned just my market, and changed the name, and I was off and running as Advantage Publishing.
That is, I didn't know that about you in terms of the financial planning aspect of it. That's a surprise to me. And when you tell us that story about that transition into the publishing world, what was it that caught your interest? Because financial advising is very different than the publishing world, I would imagine.
They are different ends of the spectrum.
So, what I know you said that it was like a short-term gig that you were thinking you were going
I
into.
thought it was going to be. It was.
Yeah, but
It's ironic. You know, those high school counselors, you do all these tests and they tell you what careers. Mine, everything they came back with was the complete opposite of what I wanted to do. You should be a writer, you should be in journalism, you should be in marketing, all these creative fields. And I never saw myself as creative. I was a numbers guy. Statistics and numbers and planning, I had no interest. I knew since I was 13, if I wasn't going to be a major league ball player, I was going to be in finance. And I went down that path, and it was through a series of changes. And, as far as different as the spectrums are, the job that I was doing wasn't different. It was no different in some ways. It was no different than running for office. In every aspect of what I was doing, at the core to me was community involvement. It was talking to people, it was getting to know them, knowing what they wanted, knowing what they needed, helping solve problems, helping have an impact. And the couple transitions that I've had in my life have been where there's been conflict in the general feeling, either the company I was with or the relationship that I was with had a different level of commitment to the community than I did. And it has always been, how do I make a difference? If it's all about me in a short period of time, that might be self-serving. There might be some fun, but when you're gone, you're gone. You can't take it with you. But if you have an impact, if you make a difference in the lives of others, that's the legacy that you pass on. That's the opportunity to give back and make the place that you call home a better place. And that's, the transition. What made me successful, I think, as a financial advisor, was it wasn't about the trade. It was about getting to know the people, understanding what their goals were, understanding what they have tried and failed at, what they have tried and succeeded at, what their true definition of risk was, what they wanted to accomplish, and then trying to put that puzzle together to help them reach those goals. As somebody in advertising, it was the exact same thing. It wasn't about selling them space. Whether they bought an ad or not wasn't going to make a difference in my life. But if it was the right marketing approach for them and I helped them grow their business, it could have a significant impact on them. And then being able to do it locally and focus on local business owners that I see every day, and then expanding it into the editorial and it really came down, it was the same thing. How do I make a difference? How do I understand where somebody wants to go and help them come up with a plan to get there? That's the fun of what I got to do every day. And the job itself, I mean, you've got to enjoy what you do, but it's never really been about the title or the industry. It's been about the people and the puzzles.
Mm-hmm. So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I want to just make sure that I'm tracking with you in the right
Sure.
way. And that is, I see the parallel between the industries and the reasons that you love doing, love doing both really. But what
Sure.
is it about the publishing industry or your current situation that fits better with who you are as a person?
Ooh,
Well,
that's a
because
good question.
I'll give you
Uh,
some time to think about that one because I know I threw this one at you, and it's really about, you mentioned before that the companies that you had worked for, whether it had been the financial company or the other publication company, they didn't
sure.
really fit with where you wanted to go or what you really valued. How does what you do now fit better?
So I guess it's similar. And let me say that I was lucky in that both companies I worked for did some amazing things. Where the conflict came was in the impact they wanted to have locally and how they wanted to do so was different. It's kind of like the young brash kid who thinks he can walk on water and is will never get knocked down. He's going to jump off the rooftop and fly. um, I thought I could do it better. I thought I was, this big company has no idea how to relate to people, all these big corporate standards. It never occurred to me that there was a reason that they had to have those in place for the size of the company that they had become. But I didn't see myself as one of a million. I saw myself as one of a few in this community. And that's ultimately, it has been about the people that I work and play and live and see with every single day. And the opportunity to be my own boss, to do it my way, to succeed or fail based on my hard work and ethic and integrity and passion. There's something that, you know, I don't know that I would recommend it to everybody, but when that really drives you, I needed to know whether I could do it as the boss, whether I could be my own boss and make those decisions. And then as I started to grow and hire people and build, could I transfer that or transition that and bring other people along who had the same core belief system that I did and still be successful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a nice fit, and definitely it's worked out so far for you. So that's
It has been
fantastic.
fun. It
And,
has been enjoyable.
and just to remind people that are listening, we're talking to Scott Costello. He's the owner of Advantage Publishing. And Scott, through this entire journey and through the owning your own publishing company and being your own boss, I know that's opened doors for other opportunities of things that inspire you. Can you
It
tell us
has.
about some of the other things that you do, that you spend your time with, that really inspire you, that motivate you, that just keep you going throughout your work?
Sure. I'm blessed in that I was born into a middle class family. I have had opportunities and benefits that maybe as a kid I took for granted, but as you get exposed, you understand that not everybody has 3 meals a day. Not everybody has an opportunity to go to a good school or go home to. I mean, I'm appreciative of what I had. Um, and as I started getting involved in the community, I became aware of opportunities to get more involved. I joined the board of directors for a local nonprofit, the Child Advocacy Center, and really felt that every ounce of energy that I gave to help the organization came back to me tenfold. I was gaining more out of it than I was giving, but I wasn't doing it to gain. Um, and it kind of has pushed me and encouraged me. Every employee on my team, I won't tell them who they have to support, but the company will always support the organizations that they believe in. But to work with my company, they have to give back to the community and volunteer their time at the nonprofit of their choice. It's become a corporate culture and a philosophy. And being on the board of nonprofits, typical blueprint, Scott Costello thinks, okay, this is good, but I could do it better. I went to a number of events, and there were some really fun events, and there were some events that, the rubber chicken circuit, or you were sitting at a table the entire time, or you were wondering what time it was going to end, or they weren't making any money. And I thought, there are organizations that could use a really good event. And instead of complaining about some of the ones I'm going to, go out and do one yourself and see if you can do it the way that you want to and do it better. So I gathered some friends together and I picked the causes that I wanted to give to, and we created an event. And I say we because I get the title as executive director. I'm the one that gets up and speaks every year, but I'm nothing without the people that actually do all the hard work. But for 10 years now, I've been the executive director and the creator of Taste of Greater Gainesville. We've given over $600,000 to nonprofits in our community, and it's been fun, but we've also raised awareness and we've raised money, and they've been able to grow and expand and hire and help and treat more people, more kids. And that's been a huge part of who we are as a company, who I am as a person, but the giving back, the getting involved, the community aspect has been, it's a separate entity than Advantage Publishing, but it takes up every bit as much time and creates so much joy for my team and myself. So we've done our own charity event for the last 10 years. We've also done events that recognize people in the community that are having an impact. It started as 13 going on 30, which was to recognize people in our community, business people under the age of 30 that were having an impact, to try to keep them in this transitional town to retain the talent. And then it expanded to 40 under 40 and is now the Impact Awards, recognizing individuals having an impact. And then looking around and saying, people such as yourself, we needed to create something for women in business that were having an impact. And I couldn't think of a better word. And with the help of one who worked for me, Megan created the term fierce, but it's a great word to define women who are having an impact, who are forging their paths and creating opportunities for others. And we started 5 years ago, the Fierce Awards, recognizing women in business. And, you know, everything we do is differently, but it all comes from the same core, making a difference, being positive, recognizing others, getting to know people, understanding the issues that they're facing, and promoting those that are having that impact. It's every day is different.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting when you share that story, and then also your transition from the financial world into the publishing world. A lot of the same themes come through, and one of the themes that I just heard loud and clear was, you know, that you had a vision for doing something a way that you felt passionate about, and you just did it, right? And that's hard to do sometimes, but good for you.
Well, they say an entrepreneur is someone who is willing to jump off a cliff without a parachute, who thinks they'll make it across.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been pretty, but I've never hesitated to make the jump.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I ran for office.
Well, I was actually going to bring that up next, and thanks for the segue there, because when you said something that's not pretty, sometimes politics are not pretty, but you jumped right in and you ran for public office in our town, and I am just curious to know how all of those experiences running for office taught you lessons or gave you strength, or just really how that experience affected you in your continued journey.
I think it prepared me for the running and taught me a little humility, and that the outcome wasn't always going to be the same. Again, I wanted to do it my way. I wasn't going to follow a blueprint. We're living in contentious times and a very polarizing community, a very polarizing country. And I didn't want to be tied to the letter. I wanted to have an impact as me, and learned very, very quickly that what advantage I had in knowing a lot of people wasn't anywhere as important or far reaching as I thought. And it's true. You know, it doesn't matter what circles you run in, until you put yourself out there, nobody is as important as they think they are. Nobody is irreplaceable. But I ran a very positive campaign that was completely issue driven. We didn't get into the mud throwing. I think we had a very different philosophy, but the woman I ran against, I now consider a friend. We had the same priorities. We just had them structured 1 through 10. Which was one was very different for both of us. But it helped me see that there were so many people and so many issues within our community that I had no clue about, and inspired me to learn more. Stealing your podcast name, Ignite, it ignited my passion in the community to really get even more involved and learn more. I met a lot of people that I didn't know. And I learned that, in this type of a marketplace, you're not winning as an independent without that base behind you. You got to choose a side. And even if you stray from the extremes of that side, you need the support to get elected. But people on both sides believed in the mission and agreed with the philosophy. And, the outcome wasn't pretty. I lost. Yeah. But I won a lot more by running and watching some of those commission meetings, sitting through some of those meetings. I think I won by not winning. But it's been fun. I learned there's so much that ties in. Yeah. The networking, the people that you meet, knowing how to talk to a complete stranger, asking the right questions to learn about things that you didn't know about, helping come up with solutions, surrounding yourself with people who are so much more skilled at certain specifics than I'll ever be. It ignited the passion. It allowed me to gain knowledge and learn new things and meet new people, and I'm definitely better for it.
Yeah, well, Scott, everything that you've shared is very inspiring. I mean, you've jumped right in on every endeavor that you've tackled, and that is truly inspiring. And I hope people that are listening can see how inspiring that is, as it is to me, for sure. So, before we wrap up, I'm just wondering if there's, 2 or 3 kind of key takeaways of things that you've learned over time that really has given you the strength to keep, I guess, use your words, like jumping off the cliff, right? And trying new things to keep yourself going.
So I believe very, very passionately that routine is boring. I understand how routine can be successful, but if you only live within your comfort zones, you'll only know what's available to you already in that zone. I thrive on trying new things, on learning new tasks, on experiencing new experiences. My fiance tells me all the time, don't make judgment on food until you try it. You never know what you may love. And she's right. I've, in the last year and a half, tasted foods that I never would have dreamt I would have been willing to consider, and absolutely love some of them. It has pushed
Brussels sprouts? Is Brussels sprouts?
I do like good. Brussels sprouts are good if they're cooked the right way. Yeah. But she is a strong, fierce woman that has made me better by knowing her. Without getting too, touchy-feely, I've known you a long time, but you continue to inspire me, and you have been one that's always jumped off the cliff. I like to surround myself with people that feel and like the same philosophy, because it energizes me and pushes me to keep jumping. Making a difference encourages me to keep jumping, even if I don't, I know that I'm going to land on my feet. It may be at a much higher level if I succeed than if I don't, but there'll always be another opportunity to jump. And you never know where you're going to land if you don't jump. There are things in life that you can't jump at there, but from a work perspective, from an involvement perspective, that's what pushes me. That's what helps me thrive. Making a difference is so much more important to me than getting that yes or no.
Mm-hmm. That's some great insight, Scott. And I really appreciate you sharing your time, your stories, your experience with us today. So after this break, we'll be right back with just a final thoughts.
Enjoying Ignite? Then you'll want to check out Technado, another podcast from the IT Pro TV network. In each episode, hosts Peter and Don recap the week's top tech news and interview IT experts from around the globe. Learn more at itpro.tv/podcasts.
We've heard today from Scott Costello about the benefits of taking that leap of faith. When you feel passionate about something, The fear of risk is sometimes the only thing holding us back. So the question to ask is, what holds you back from taking a risk and aligning with your true passion? Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to Ignite. And from all of us here at Ignite, we'll see you next time.